perpendicular lines. So, parallel mean a line with another line. What do you mean by matches? If two lines are parallel, they're sort of side by side, right? Do they ever touch? No, they never touch because they have the same slope. Okay? So parallel lines have the same slope. M1 is equal to M2. Same slope. Okay? So if two lines have the same slope, they are parallel. Perpendicular lines. What does perpendicular mean? Anybody know? I've heard like a whole bunch of different things. Okay. Go. Oh, you're very close. You're very close. So perpendicular lines are, here's one line. They're kissing. That's exactly it. They intersect at what angle? 90 degrees. Right? Parallel lines intersect at 90 degrees. If you look at their slopes, they have what are called negative reciprocals. Sounds really fancy. All it means is that the slope of one is equal to the negative reciprocal. So you take the slope of the other one, you flip it, and you put a negative in front of it. Okay? So if this is, we'll do this in a sec. If this is M1, it's perpendicular one, M2. You just take the slope, flip it, and put a negative. So it's easiest if we just look at this. So here's our slope of 3/4. AC has a slope of 3/4. Okay? I tell you that GH is parallel to it. So what's the slope of GH? It's the same. So we would say M lowercase gh, subscript gh, is equal to 3/4. Okay? That's if they're parallel. If I say BF is perpendicular to AC, that means that BF is equal to negative reciprocal. Take the first slope, flip it. So if I flip 3/4, what do I get? 4/3. And you put a negative in front of it. That's it. That means they're parallel. Okay? Now, a consequence of this is if you multiply the two slopes together, it equals -1. That's what this thing here says. If you multiply the slopes together, you get -1. So for example, if I go MBF times MAC, BF is -4/3 times AC, which is 3/4. What happens to the 3's? They will cancel. What happens to the 4's? They will cancel. What am I left with? -1. When you multiply two slopes together, and if they equal -1, you know the lines are perpendicular. Okay? If they don't equal -1, it's neither. No, it's -4/3. The negative only goes to one or the other. Because I could write it like this. All is one fraction, right? That make more sense? Okay. Okay, so standard question is, tell me if these lines are perpendicular or parallel, or neither. So 1 over 4, 3 over 12. Always put your slope in lowest terms. So is 3 over 12 in lowest terms? No. What does it reduce to? 1/4, because they're both divisible by 3, right? So 3 over 12 reduces to 1/4. So what can we say about lines 1 and 2? Parallel, because they have the same slope. All right, M1, M2. M1 has a slope of 5 over 7. M2 is 14 over 10. So what can we do here? What should we do to the 14 over 10? Lowest terms. So what goes into 14 and 10? 2. So I get 7 over 5. So now I got 5 over 7 and 7 over 5. If you multiply them together and they equal -1, that means they are perpendicular. Okay, so if I go 5 over 7 times 7 over 5, what do I get? I get +1, right? Because there's no negative here. So I end up with +1 because the 7s and the 5s all cancel. So are they perpendicular? No, because they did not equal -1. So they're not perpendicular. Are they parallel? No, because they're not the same slope. So what are they? They're just lines. They're neither. They just have different slopes. That's it. It's just two lines that have different slopes. So they're just neither. Okay. All right. Can I scroll down a bit? Okay. This is a good question as well. So point P has the coordinates 4 and 7. Q has the coordinates 6 and -2. I want to find a line segment that is perpendicular. Find the slope of a line segment that is perpendicular to this line. So, first thing I need to do is find the slope of PQ. How do I do that? If you don't have a graph, how do you do it? Yes, you find that, use that subtraction formula. So that. Does it matter what you call set 2 and set 1? No. So I'll just call this set, I'll flip it up. Set 1, set 2. So y2 is 7 minus -2. x2 is 4 minus 6. 9 over -2. Or -2 over 9. Or negative 9/2. Like that. All right, so that's the slope of PQ. If I want to know the slope of a line segment that is perpendicular to it, so I will write a perpendicular line segment with an M, and I'll do a little right angle triangle. That means slope that is perpendicular. So the perpendicular slope. How do I get the perpendicular slope of -9 over 2? What do you do to the fraction? Flip it. Flip the fraction, so it becomes 2 over 9, or -2 over 9, and then what do you put in front of it? A negative. Now I have two negatives, which become, so it's just 2 over 9. Sorry. So later on, this is going to be important because I will ask, this will be the first step of a multi-step question. But if you want to find the slope of a perpendicular line segment, i.e. a line that, so here's PQ. P, Q. We have this line, which we're saying has slope negative 9 over 2. Negative 9 over 2. That's the slope of that line. I want to know the slope of this line. All right? So we just flip it, and this one has slope 2 over 9. Does that make sense just by looking at the way I drew it? Why not? So if it's a negative slope, what does it have to do in terms of going left to right? It has to go down, right? And then because this is positive, you know it has to go up from left to right. Okay. All right, we got one more thing to do. All right, next page on bottom of page. I don't know what that is. 376. Two lines have slopes of negative 3 over 4 and k over 5. Find the value of k if the lines are parallel. Okay, as soon as you see the word parallel, it means what, Tyler? Yeah, start paying attention. If I say parallel, what am I saying about the slopes? The slopes are the same. So that means that this negative 3 over 4 equals this k over 5. They have to be the same. So how do I solve this? Trying to solve for k. What do I do? You could, but what do you really want to do here? You got to get rid of that 5, right? How do you get rid of the 5? Multiply it. So then they cancel. You can turn 3/4 into a decimal if you want. But if you're going to take next year pre-calc 11 math, you got to be able to deal with fractions. How do you multiply fractions? Top times top, and then bottom times bottom. 5 is just 5 over 1. So you get negative 15 over 4 is equal to k. If you do the decimal, I don't know what that is. What's 15 by 4? 3.75. Okay, last question. If I say the lines are perpendicular, what does that mean? What do you do with the slopes? You flip it and make one of them negative. So if I already have the one that's negative, what should I do? Just flip that one. Don't flip the other one. You only flip one of them, okay? So let's flip this one. So it's 4 over 3. And if I make it negative, let's put a negative, and then it has to equal k over 5. And then you solve them. So what do the two negatives turn into? Positive. How do you solve this? Multiply by 5 on each side. So you end up with 20 over 3. If you do the decimal, 6.6 repeating. I don't care if you do the decimal. All right. 2A3, pick 3 of them. And then 10 and 11.